talking with Brett Dolan from, let's see, Perfect Game, Touchdown Radio, Razorback Sports Network, and maybe even this weekend, Brett, Flow Sports. Is that true?
It is true, but it's not the Flow Sports where you're going to be at Arlington. It'll be in Corpus Christi, but I'll enjoy a trip to South Texas and a little bit of side work with a rare sort of off weekend.
Okay, so what teams do you have where you're headed in your part of Texas, further south than where I'll be?
Yeah, 4 teams. 2 of them were regional teams last year in Washington and Maryland. Got the Pitt Panthers and then A&M Corpus Christi. So it's 2 games today, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then I'll try and sneak out Sunday night. So hopefully, I'm outdoor baseball while you're indoor baseball this weekend. So hopefully the weather will cooperate just fine, and I can see 6 games to kind of really crank up this college baseball season.
You ready for all 10 big fans of Pitt baseball to complain about the Flow Sports connection? Because you know they will. Let me say this. Like, growing up in Pittsburgh and as a baseball fanatic, I don't even know if I was aware that Pitt had a baseball program. So it's good to know that they still play it there.
Yeah, well, we'll know a little more this weekend. I was at my son's game in Houston the other day, and I was doing a Zoom call with 3 of their coaches in the middle of it. So hopefully my notes make sense to me. But we'll fire it up tomorrow. But I'll be trying to keep an eye on what you've got rolling in Arlington as well, because it'll be a fun weekend for the Hogs.
Hey, I've got the better game. There's no doubt about that. In fact, I think I have the best game in all of college baseball tomorrow. Arkansas versus Oregon State. It's too bad we can't have a 3-game series with these 2 teams. Or who knows? Maybe we'll see them again in a few months.
Well, you could. That's a good team, Phil. And again, I spoke with Mitch Cannon for about 20 minutes last week. And, of course, he was a manager, right, with the Travs not that long ago before he went back to college baseball and former Beaver great. And I think he played for the Naturals. But he's got a great team. This Travis Bazzana guy, you're going to love him, if not fear him. And it's a veteran team. I think they had 8 guys walk about 25 times or more last year, so very patient. So hopefully Hagen Smith can throw strikes and have a nice bounce back. We know how good he is, how good he's going to be. That first appearance in the first inning really wasn't Hagen-like, so it'll be a really good test and a great game for you Friday night.
Brett, what do you think these teams are trying to accomplish during this tournament down there in Arlington? Trying to fill each other out, trying to go out there and play well. What do you think kind of their mission is this weekend?
No, I think it's a good question and a good thought process, Matt. I mean, obviously the easy question is you'd like to get some wins. Now, if Arkansas gets a win against a really good Oregon State team Friday, I think they feel like they should probably go 3-0. But, the one thing I like about Dave Van Horn is he will mention sometimes you're going to lose games early in the year, and those losses hopefully will benefit you in some capacity going forward. I think Arkansas learned a lot about themselves last year when they played in that tournament, and it was a different weekend. It was the very first weekend of the year. They got to see a few pitchers emerge. Gage Wood gave us a little bit of a glimpse. They also got to see that there were things to work on, like holding runners and not letting teams run them off the field. It was also the first weekend of the new pitch clock, so it was a little different, but I think they came out of that better because it's nice to play James Madison and whatnot, or maybe nice to play McNeese or Murray State, but I don't know if you do much more than gain some at-bats and a little bit of confidence. You truly find out something about your team. And then it has a regional feel, too. When you've got to prepare for 3 different teams in a weekend, Arkansas does a great job of scouting and preparing and having charts and graphics on what they want to do for hitters. But it does kind of force you into that mode that you're going to see in Hoover and later on in the year, just to kind of get used to preparing for a lot of different teams rather than just one.
Well, and I think, when you look at this last weekend against James Madison, the loss doesn't bother me because what it does is it shows you the things that you're trying to clean up right now, and it's little things. Look, there are going to be games you don't knock runners home from third base or second base. That just happens in baseball. Some of the other games, they hit well when it came into the clutch, but it was some of those, and it's like you say the small things in baseball. The things about fundamentals in baseball, Brett, are all about the value of one base, and in the field, on the bases this past Sunday, there were too many mistakes, too many bases they gave up, and I just don't. This is a team that is going to be fundamentally sound, just because that's something Dave always focuses on, and they're focused on it immediately because that's why they lost on Sunday. Little things like cutting a ball off when it shouldn't have been cut off, the wrong person fielding a bunt, things like that. These are things you can clean up really, really easily.
No, I would agree. And when you think back to the team that finished last year, Kendall Diggs was in right field, and Peyton Holt was playing second base. But for the most part, it's an entirely different cast of characters. Now, they're accomplished. Some are transfers. Others were in this program. But it's different people in different spots. And I don't care how much you scrimmage against yourselves, it's different when you play a real team. When you're not playing the ones versus the twos at a scrimmage, or if Dave mixes and matches his starters. When you have that lineup out there for a few games, they need to play together. And we saw 3 left fielders and 3 different catchers in a 4-game series. So there's still some things in play, but Holt played a couple of games at second and then at third. And then you've got, obviously, a shortstop who's playing in weather he's never played in before. You've got a couple of first basemen. You've got so many different moving parts. And that's where I think this test is just a different weight class. And if they come out of it having gathered a few things from last week that they didn't do well, like rundowns and cutoffs and whatnot, it really sets them up, I think, for a pretty good opportunity to head into a conference play in a few weeks with a head of steam.
Hey, Brett, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about some SEC basketball. Did you see the kid from Alabama? Phil just brought this up when he kind of went down with his fist against the Florida kid.
I just saw a little bit of, I heard you guys talking, and I popped on the old social media chain and took a look at it. I tell you what, nothing's dull in this SEC, right?
Oh, exactly. Because for some reason I didn't know if you were on the call when Devo got kicked out. I believe that was the Georgia game, Phil. I'm trying to. It was a month and a half ago, but there was no maliciousness there, and they kicked him out of the game. How did they miss that? How do you miss that? Because when I first saw it, I thought the kid should be gone for at least out of this game and the next 2 games.
I do too, and probably going back to that Devo thing, and maybe it adds to what you're talking about. When you think about what took place with Devo getting thrown out of the game, I think it's hard to legislate intent. There was a blow to the face or there's a blow to the groin, whatever it is. That's what happened. And usually there has to be some type of punishment. It's hard to say, well, I didn't think he meant to do it or he didn't want to do it. It happened and it took place. And that's why I think this situation was a little bit unusual because, again, whether you're legislating intent as a referee or not, there was a blow, there was a shot, and it feels like there should be some type of repercussions for that.
But there's a track record for this kid. It's like the same idea as Grayson Allen. You just started looking for the kid to be stepping on somebody. I mean, there's football players that have had this kind of track record. Pitchers who are known as headhunters, or baseball players that are known to slide in spikes up. Or take out a middle infielder in a dirty way. I mean, these things follow you, and so you have to start looking for it. And so for this kid, this is the second time he's done this. Which means you have to sit for an appreciable amount of time. But don't expect Nate Oates to do anything about it. Like that right there is a man. Like I am not interested in what he thinks about college sports at all. I don't want to hear his opinion about college sports.
He's become the Jerry Tarkanian, I think, of this modern era. There's probably a couple of other guys maybe you could throw in that mix. And I'm with you. I think the Grayson Allen comparison's a good one because we saw officials, at least it felt like to me, that they were calling games anticipating he might do something stupid, not waiting to see if it happened, but you stop giving a kid the benefit of the doubt. And then in this mind or this world we live in now, when you go home and you flip on SportsCenter, you open up your phone, you start to understand who these guys are, even if you're not officiating their games, even if you're just a fan. And once somebody gets a reputation, it's hard to turn that battleship around. And that's where I think some of these kids, you don't give them the benefit of the doubt because you've seen it before. You've seen it in person. You've seen it on television or on social media.
Brett, I think there's 3 teams right now when I look at the SEC that I think, man, that team could go to the Final Four. Give me 1 or 2 teams you like in the SEC right now that you think are just top of the class.
And maybe it's because I saw Tennessee in person the other day and what they did at Bud Walton, because the Razorbacks men's team has played a little bit better, really, for the last couple of weeks, with the exception of what Tennessee did to them. And then this was a question I think we started kicking around a while back because it looked like the SEC is going to get in a really big number of teams. But for me, it becomes, well, who can get to the second weekend? Who can make a run at a Final Four? Auburn's looked pretty good at times, but they've been a little befuddling to me. And I had them in person a year ago for a couple of games early in the season, and it felt like there was something missing, not big, but something, maybe a score or whatnot, Tennessee, I think, could probably do it. Alabama's a hard team to gauge. As we talked about, they don't play a ton of defense at times. And then I feel like maybe there's one more. But, a month ago or 2 months ago, you'd probably throw Kentucky into that conversation, and that's clearly not the case because they just continue to struggle and lose some games that I think you probably felt like going in they were going to win. But it feels like Tennessee's a team that has both scoring and some guard play and some bigs. And I'll kind of be curious to see what type of draw they get in the tournament. You can get a nice couple of opening round games that really propels you forward, maybe for a chance to win 2 the next weekend and get to Phoenix.
Hey, Brett, what was your thought when you heard about Eli Gold essentially being relieved of duties as Alabama football radio play-by-play? The way I think about this is, independent of the decision that Alabama has made here and where Eli is in his career, because it doesn't say he's not retiring. He said he's got an opportunity in professional sports. He's going to announce it tomorrow. You never know when it's going to happen, and probably you're never ready for it. Like it is the rare broadcaster who gets to decide when he or she is ready to step aside, because there's always someone waiting in the background who wants that job, and a lot of times there's somebody who's willing to give him or her that job. So that's what I take from this. You never know when the thing that you love could be taken away from you.
And it's getting harder and harder. I think we've seen that in Major League Baseball. A couple of 24-year-olds got jobs that, it's a little bit different than it was 5 or 10 years ago. I would say what I thought, Phil, was that for the most part, college voices on radio usually get a better opportunity to kind of call their shots because they become so synonymous with their programs and their voice becomes synonymous with their teams. And for Eli, now I know he's missed road games and whatnot in recent years, but I kind of thought if his health was fine, he might keep going for several more years. I saw him at the end of the Iron Bowl last year and just sat down with him after that crazy finish and had a nice 5 or 10 minute conversation with him. And it felt like he was healthy. It felt like he was enjoying what he was doing and was probably happy to be back after it was taken away from him for a while. So a little bit surprised by that. And then, I think he was just 70 years old. I mean, had he been 76 or 77 and the university said, maybe it's time for you to stop traveling or there's a concern, but it was certainly a surprise for me.